like the woman that I like. I finna make everything alright. But if there's anything I can do, as I be do, I'm with my mind.
Channel Africa and you have got something in common. The thirst for knowledge.
Você é fluente em português? É apaixonado por rádio e quer trabalhar na África do Sul? Você tem documentos que o qualificam para trabalhar na África do Sul? Nesse caso, podemos ter uma oportunidade para você trabalhar no Canal África. Envie seu currículo e demonstração para Canal África newsroom@channelafrica.co.za. Lembre-se, se você não receber alguma resposta nossa em 14 dias, isso significa que você não foi selecionado. Canal África, a perspectiva africana.
We are on Open Views Audio Bouquet. Channel 628. SABC News. The African Perspective.
With your news at 12 o'clock, I'm Matapala Mahape. Good afternoon. South Africa's Communication and Digital Technologies Minister, Soli Malatsi, has highlighted the vital role played by the media in the democracy by informing citizens and holding politicians accountable as a watchdog. He's been addressing a two-day conference on media and information integrity running on the sidelines of the G20 program in South Africa. The M20 initiative highlights media, journalism and information integrity issues relevant to the G20 process and mirrors official G20 engagement groups for think tanks and civil society, among others. Malatsi has also raised challenges in the media industry.
The speed and reach of digital falsehoods can fracture the social cohesion and political stability. And as was highlighted by the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, that threats to information integrity are proliferating and expanding with unprecedented speed. Yet around the world, the very same media institutions we rely on to uphold the truth are under severe strain. In too many countries, journalists face censorship, harassment, and even violence.
And the Forum on Information and Democracy says the only way to effectively reach the G20 presidency goal is to tackle the crisis of media integrity and sustainability head-on. This was the message at the start of the M20 summit, which kicked off this morning in Melrose Arc, Johannesburg. The M20 summit is a two-day international conference which is running on the sidelines of the G20 program in South Africa. The main focus of the summit is on the role of media and journalism to foster information integrity as a cornerstone for human rights, effective governance, international cooperation and public trust needed for social and economic development. Policy Director at the Forum on Information and Democracy, Katriana Zuguel.
And only if we tackle this information integrity crisis, only if we tackle the crisis of sustainability and media financing and then media freedom, where media are increasingly under attack, on the one hand financially, but also by actually harassment, violent attacks, can we tackle the G20 presidency goals. So the objective of today's conference is to bring attention to the topics of information integrity to the G20 leaders. We really want this to be a key element of G20 negotiations.
And the World Health Organization and the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, have delivered 1.1 million doses of cholera vaccines to Chad as the country battles a deadly outbreak in its eastern provinces. Since mid-July, the epidemic has claimed at least 75 lives, with cases reported in Silla and Odai. Health officials say the vaccination campaign set to begin this week is a crucial step in curbing the spread of the disease, which continues to threaten several African nations. Dr. Victor Ngolanga, Chief of Health at UNICEF Chad, discussed UNICEF's preparedness and border effectiveness to combat efforts to combat the outbreak.
The current outbreak in Chad, we saw it coming. Since July 2024, there has been a cholera outbreak in Sudan. And given the movements of people across the borders and the massive influx of the refugees, it was expected that at some point there would be a case, and if not quickly brought under control, it would flare up and an outblown epidemic.
A head-on collision in Namibia involving vehicles belonging to the security services has killed 16 people. The accident took place 167 miles south of the capital Windhoek, outside the town of Marintel on Saturday. President Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah wrote on social media saying no words can truly capture the depth of the loss. She praised the souls of the country's fallen officers. Namibia has one of the highest road traffic fatalities rates in the world. 2 civilians and 14 officers were among those confirmed to have been killed in the crash. Namibia's Ministry of Home Affairs initially put the death toll at 14, but now in an update on Sunday said that this had now risen as a police officer and a prison officer had died of their injuries after being taken to hospital. And lastly, Australia could use a range of technologies to implement its social media ban on under 16s, but all have risks or shortcomings, as a report has found. The government says its ban, which comes into effect in December, is designed to limit the harmful impacts of social media. The policy has been touted as world first and is being watched closely by leaders globally. Under the new laws, the platforms must take responsible steps to prevent Australian children from creating accounts on their sites and deactivate existing ones. Though the move is popular with many parents, experts and have raised concerns over data privacy and the accuracy of age verification technology. The federal government commissioned the UK-based Age Check certification scheme to test the ways Australia could enforce the ban, and its final report was published on Sunday. For any news stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. For Channel Africa News, I am Matapela Mahape.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
And coming up in your sports news this hour, Jose Ribeiro axed by Al Ali this after disastrous start to the season, while Novak Djokovic storms into the last 8 of the US Open despite injury concerns. I'll have details of these and other stories at 12:30.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
Thank you, Matapelo and Mosibudi. I'm Tracy Bogard. I'm welcoming you on Africa Update on Channel Africa, the African Perspective, where we meet to look at the latest in news, current affairs and sport. Coming up in this hour, the M20 Summit is underway in Johannesburg, South Africa, and Operation Watershed is calling for the inclusion of South Africans living abroad in the National Dialogue Steering Committee. We are broadcasting live from Auckland Park in Johannesburg, South Africa on the DSTV audio bouquet channel 802, on OpenView on channel 628, and you can live stream us on www.channelafrica.co.za, as well as on the SABC Plus app available on the Google and Apple Play stores. You can join in the conversation by finding us on X at Channel Africa numerical 1, Facebook at Channel Africa, Instagram at Channel Africa 1. You can also subscribe on YouTube at Channel Africa 1. And remember to use the hashtag Africa Update.
Tune in and turn up the volume. This is Channel Africa.
On today's Africa Update asks, the 2-day M20 Summit is underway in Johannesburg, South Africa, with the main focus of the summit being on the role of media and journalism to foster information integrity as a cornerstone for human rights, effective governance, international cooperation, and public trust needed for social and economic development. We are asking, is the media playing its proper role in your country? Share your thoughts on Channel Africa's social media platforms, Channel Africa 1 on X and Instagram, Channel Africa on Facebook, or send us your comments and voice notes to our WhatsApp number +2763 406 9126.
Get Channel Africa on DSTV Audio Bouquet. Channel 802. Africa Update on Channel Africa.
The two-day M20 summit is underway in Johannesburg, South Africa. The summit is an international conference that's running on the sidelines of the G20 program in South Africa. The main focus of the summit is on the role of media and journalism to foster information integrity as a cornerstone for human rights, effective governance, international cooperation, and public trust needed for social and economic development. African Editors Forum President Churchill Otieno says it's an opportunity for the media to come together and discuss what opportunities exist to get to the truth.
We live in a world today where many people, many forces think they are entitled to their own truths. Yet we in journalism know that there can only be one version of truths. So in that struggle, it's a chance for the media to come together and reflect on what opportunities exist for us to innovate and creatively respond to this new reality, to make sure that our audiences, in spite of every other versions of truths in quote that they're getting, they still find ways, accessible ways to get a truth that can help in the development of their own affairs. A key benefit of the digital technologies that we have today is that information flows a lot more quickly, and that has enabled many more voices to be part of the conversation, which is a good thing. But it comes at a cost that we in media, we in journalism must help carry, which is how do we then help the citizen to get to the right truth that connects and is verifiable to their own aspirations. It forces us to find innovative ways to tell those stories, tell them quickly, and get those stories much faster to the people who need to know about them. Secondly, we just have to up our games. As those forces find new ways to try and shut us down, we must also find new ways to make sure that our voice is better amplified and can be heard by the people.
On media freedom, Churchill Otieno says the issue is not a new one.
You know, we look back into history and we find many instances when big power has clashed with any efforts to make the people more aware. You know, be it about programs to make the people more literate, be it about programs to make the printed word reach more people. In history, we always found that power always clashed with those who are working to make the people more informed. It is our time now. It presents in ways that speak to today's world, but at the core, it is not new. What do we do about it? We must organize better as those who believe in truthful information in society. We just must organize better. It's not an easy task, but I believe that we have enough people who are committed to those values. Platforms such as the M20 is a chance for us to get together, to reflect on what's working and find ways to do more of what's working, and also reflect on what's not working and find ways to creatively innovate around those that are not working, the challenges that we have to confront. So I think we have a chance, we have an opportunity to help the citizens see their role, see their place, see the benefits that these resolutions bring to them. And that way we'll empower that citizen to help us get their leaders to deliver and to implement these resolutions. Africa is a unique place, and therefore African media is also unique. What will help us has to be created by ourselves, has to be created at home, has to be homegrown. It's only when we define that we can then find allies from elsewhere to help us realize it. The M20 is a chance for us to reflect on what then is working. What is working in Kenya? What is working in Nigeria? What is working in Egypt? What is happening in South Africa? And how can more of Africa adapt, align, learn from these things that are working? And through that then we find new partners, hopefully in the G20. to help us then deliver this. It is going to be a long journey. It's going to take a lot of work, but we are ready for it and we must do it.
And that was African Editors Forum President Churchill Otieno.
Africa Update on Channel Africa.
The Kingdom of Lesotho has seen a registration of yet another new political party. The Basotho Development Front leader, Botata Mahala, says registering his party marks a monumental step in the participation of Lesotho politics. Lesotho has seen an explosion of smaller parties, a move that has toppled the decades ruling of traditional nationalists and Congress parties that have tormented political landscapes since the dawn of independence in 1966. Rapelang Radebe tells us who Botata Mahala is.
He's a businessman in the mining fraternity and looks like newly found wealth, of which he says he is willing to share with ordinary Basotho, with the people. He has been campaigning quite hectically and trying his level best to assist in those who are less fortunate. So I think on that wheel he has really appeased a lot. But now there is a new constituency of people who are party hopping. Anyone who sees like there is an opportunity either to stand a chance in politics or either to be able to amass resources, of which he said no one will be coming because everybody will be equal. So no one will say, I have arrived first, therefore I deserve a seat in the front. He said, we are all equal, even I am willing to be challenged. I think that will spark a slightly new debate to those who have lost interest in politics.
Radebe weighs in on the new smaller parties taking over Lesotho.
If you look at, we are almost close to 60 political parties that are registered, but not all of them quite active. But we are seeing a new trend now of people who are relatively able financially in resources that are now beginning to lead political parties. The question is whether there is still room for that. If you look at the existing political environment, you can see that I think even those who are leading now keep opening up spaces. I want to make an example because there was an arrest of an editor of a political newspaper this past weekend that really shocked, I think, Lesotho. And the question is whether are they also now coming to throttle the freedom of speech. And these are things that says now political parties keep finding opportunities and advantage. Therefore, one can say, until such things don't occur, there will probably still be some space for political parties to exist.
Regarding Matlala saying he will give up his seat if his constituents tell him to do, Radebe says he will give him some points for that.
It is almost unheard of that a political leader will say he is willing to give up his seat if his constituency feels otherwise. Political leaders tend to want to hold on and actually die on their political parties. And for him to, at a very early start, says he's open to challenge. He says they have now started with an interim political committee, but he says once they go for national elections, he's willing that his position will be challenged. It's quite unheard of, and for him to openly say it in front of media, I think that was profound of him. We hope the rest of administration that he wishes to lead will be as transparent and open to question and challenge. Now that would be an opening for a really, I think, new form or new direction when it comes to democracy in political parties.
And that was SABC reporter in Lesotho, Rapelang Radebe.
Você é fluente em português? É apaixonado por rádio e quer trabalhar na África do Sul? Você tem documentos que o qualificam para trabalhar na África do Sul? Nesse caso, podemos ter uma oportunidade para você trabalhar no Canal África. Envie seu currículo e demonstração para Canal África @ newsroom@channelafrica.co.za. Lembre-se, se você não receber alguma resposta nossa em 14 dias, isso significa que você não foi selecionado. Channel África, a perspectiva africana.
Africa Update on Channel Africa.
Well, on today's Africa Update asks, the two-day M20 summit is underway in Johannesburg, South Africa, with the main focus of the summit being on the role of media and journalism to foster information integrity as a cornerstone for human rights, effective governance, international cooperation, and public trust needed for social and economic development. We are asking you, is the media playing its proper role in your country? Share your thoughts on Channel Africa's social media platforms at Channel Africa 1 on X and Instagram, at Channel Africa on Facebook, or send your comments and voice notes to our WhatsApp number +2763 406 9126.
We are on Open Views Audio Bouquet. Channel 628. Africa Update on Channel Africa.
The South African Communist Party, the SACP, has removed the African National Congress's ANC National Chairperson, Gwede Mantashe, from its Central Committee, escalating tensions within the tripartite alliance. The decision follows the SACP's plan to contest the 2026 local elections independently, a move that has sparked sharp debate with the ANC. Mantashe, a long-time SACP member and current Minister of Mineral and Petroleum Resources, downplayed the dismissal, but the ANC has warned that the SACP's actions could fracture their decades-long partnership. And for more, we're joined by SACP spokesperson Imbulelo Mandlana. Hi, Imbulelo. How are you doing?
I'm fine, how are you, man?
I'm very, very good. So tell us, what specific factors led to the removal of Mantashe from its Central Committee, and how does the decision reflect broader strategic or ideological differences within the tripartite alliance?
Contrary to the reports of the media, the decision to remove Comrade Gwede Mantashe from the Central Committee has nothing to do with larger differences that are political and ideological between the ANC and the Communist Party. They have to do with specific tasks that a Central Committee member must perform, including, for example, an obligation to attend a certain portion of meetings in order to keep up with the constitutional obligation of such a member, which clearly, despite several attempts to correct that scenario, Comrade Mantashe was unable to meet, leaving the Communist Party with no choice but to follow what the Constitution expects and what it requires of a leader of an organization, because there's a certain level and standard of participation that a Communist Party member, especially a Communist Party leader, must meet in order for them to continue to play a leadership role in the Communist Party.
So now, given the SACP's decision to contest the 2026 local elections independently, how does the party plan to balance its historical commitment to the ANC-led alliance with the new electoral ambitions? And also, what implications might this have for the alliance's cohesion?
We believe, let me put it that way, we believe as a Communist Party that the cohesion of the alliance should never be based on the whether or not the political parties in the alliance are contesting against each other or are participating in the same election in a ballot where they appear as opponents, as it were. Because the alliance itself is not based and never was founded on guaranteeing this or that other party permanent exclusion or inclusion in the elections processes. To that end, what happens in this scenario has no implications as far as we are concerned to the fate of the alliance, because the fate of the alliance never was imagined as that which can be determined by presence or absence of either of the political parties of the alliance in the ballot paper. In that way, we don't believe as some people may believe, that these actions should have any implications on the alliance, unless of course there are people in the alliance who think that the political role of the Communist Party should be reduced and be characterized by permanent exclusion from election, which would be unfortunate if such an idea existed.
So tell me, okay, if the ANC comes to you at the local government elections next year and they ask you for your votes that you've received from your constituents, will you give it to them?
That would be something we will decide at that time. There's not been a single ballot that has been cast. There's not a single campaign that has been done. There's no public debate that has been had. There's no person at this time who is in a position to predict what decisions will be made when it comes to constituting government at any level from now on. So to expect the Communist Party to make particular guarantees would be unreasonable. But as a matter of principle, the ANC and the Communist Party are in alliance. Our initial loyalty to our program would mean our first conversation about the political strategy will be towards the ANC. Other than that, it would be unfair to expect a further answer from the Communist Party at this time on those particular details.
No, and also, now, Gwede Mantashe's got a dual role as the ANC National Chairperson and the Minister of Mineral and Petroleum Resources. Did that complicate your decision to remove him?
No. That does not. That consideration is really not a consideration that was on the table for us, or for the Communist Party when it was making this determination. What was on the table was the requirement of leadership conduct from a person of Comrade Mantashe's stature, whether that requirement has been met, and what the rules in the Communist Party require of him or any other person in that particular position when it comes to how to carry, to play their role when it comes to matters of the Communist Party.
Because also, Blade Nzimande as well, as the leader of the SACP, he also has a ministerial role that he plays. But tell me now, are there any challenges of managing the overlapping leadership roles within the tripartite alliance?
No. We don't believe that is the case, because for the last 30 years, this scenario of a crossover of roles between government leadership and political leadership in the alliance organizations, it has never constituted a crisis, and we do not believe at this time that what prevails presently should be read as a manifestation of a crisis in any way.
And in light of the ANC's warning about a potential fracture in the alliance, what steps are you taking to mitigate tensions and maintain the influence within the alliance while pursuing your own independent electoral strategy?
The responsibility to maintain unity in the alliance is a shared collective responsibility. It does not fall onto the SACP simply because at this time the SACP has reconsidered its tactics when it comes to the question of elections. So a question, when it is asked like that, presumes, by virtue of our decision, that we now, the Communist Party, have a higher level of accountability for the unity of the alliance. The unity of the alliance is equally shared as a responsibility among all the organizations that constitute the alliance. To that end, we continue to be committed to the alliance, and we do not read, and we would not read any of the present dynamics as having any negative and decisive impact on the long-term standing of the alliance, because indeed the question of the alliance is only one aspect, and a smaller aspect indeed, of the matters that the Communist Party, that the alliance deals with historically as a political entity.
Mbulelo, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Kom.
That was SACP spokesperson Mbulelo Mandlana.
Africa. It's time to plug into the heartbeat of the continent. Tune in to Channel Africa, your go-to radio station that broadcasts in 5 different languages.
L'Afrique du Sud célèbre la journée nationale du
Kabla hujaitwa kwa jina la Double K or more of our forests have been destroyed. Kama kutuli branchi ndi
Partido Africano da Independência da Guiné.
See, Channel Africa represents every corner of this amazing land. From Lagos to Cape Town, Nairobi to Dakar, we've got you covered with the freshest news, music, and cultures. So, turn up the volume, feel the rhythm. Enjoy the conversation. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Africa Update on Channel Africa.
Time now for our news headlines with Matapelo Mahapi.
SABC News. Headlines. The African perspective.
Thank you, Tracy, and good afternoon. Headlines this hour. South Africa's Communication and Digital Technologies Minister Soli Malatsi has highlighted the media's role in democracy. The 2-day conference on the G20 program sidelines is meant to hold politicians accountable and address issues related to media and information integrity. And the World Health Organization and UNICEF have delivered 1.1 million doses of cholera vaccines to Chad as the country battles a deadly outbreak in its eastern provinces. And the Taliban government in Afghanistan reports over 800 deaths in a magnitude 6 earthquake in the east, with most deaths in Kunar province and some villages destroyed. More stories on these and other more details on these and other stories at top of the hour.
SABC News. Headlines. The African perspective. Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
It's a very good afternoon from the sports desk. I am Mosibu Dimakura with the latest sports news and the Sawa. So Gaborone United Ladies FC head coach Khalid Niyonzima is proud of the team this after claiming the 2025 CAF Women's Champions League COSAFA qualifiers trophy. So United Ladies sealed a 4-3 win in extra time against Zambia's Zesco Ndola girls. This after the match had finished 1-1 at the UJAW Miller Stadium in Johannesburg, right here in the Gauteng province yesterday. Now, the coach says he was impressed with the team's resilience, even though the crown almost slipped away from the team at the last minute.
You at that time, when a minute left, you can't attack. We are something the opponent to attack. Then we need to resist. We can't be attacking while we are leading. So those things are about to happen to score all that time. But it was difficult to lift up the girls because they thought they got it, but it was yet too far to say we left it. But I'm happy with the performance.
Onto the story now. Al Ahly Football Club have officially parted ways with the head coach Jose Ribeiro after just 3 months in charge, following a string of disappointing performances that left the Egyptian Giants languishing in 12th place in the Premier League standings. Now, the decision was confirmed on Sunday night after a marathon meeting involved the club president Mohamed Al Khatib as well as the sports director Mohamed Youssef. Now, the club also announced that the termination was reached by mutual consent, also citing the need to realign with the club's ambitions at both domestic as well as continental levels. Ribeiro's final match at the helm was a 2-0 home defeat to the reigning CAF Champions League winners Pyramids FC, and that of course proved to be the final straw for the former Orlando Pirates head coach. On to this now. World Football's governing body president Gianni Infantino has assured African football fans there will be no visa hassles for next year's FIFA World Cup, co-hosted in the USA, Canada as well as Mexico. This despite USA's government's new restrictions. So concerns have grown over some of African countries being placed on a visa restriction list by the President Donald Trump's administration, which also could affect some participating teams and their fans. However, during a CHAN closing press conference held in Kenya this past Saturday, Infantino assured prospective World Cup travellers they will not be affected at all.
I think it's important to clarify this because there is a lot of misconception out there. Everyone will be welcome in Canada, Mexico, and the United States for the World Cup next year. We are working exactly for that. At the Club World Cup this year, we had fans coming in from 164 different countries without, of course, any problem. Obviously, there is a process to go through to obtain visas and so on. This process will be smooth.
Meanwhile, Infantino also describes FIFA volunteers as the heart as well as the soul, face and the smile of tournaments essential for success, also in uniting people and creating a welcoming atmosphere for the fans, the players and the media.
Volunteers obviously have to engage from Africa and from all over the world with the World Cup because it is an unforgettable experience and we'll have tens of thousands of volunteers coming from all over the world as always in every World Cup. So we are working very hard to make this happen. Then, as President Motsepe said as well, every country has its own legislations in terms of obtentions of it. We've heard even here. So, we have to work on that. We have to make it better. We have to make it seamless, but there is definitely the commitment.
And finally, in tennis news, Novak Djokovic continued his bid for a record 25th Grand Slam singles titles as he stormed past qualifier Jan-Lennard Struff to reach the US Open quarterfinals early this morning. So despite twice receiving medical attention, the Serbian really looked troubled as he raced to a dominant 6-3, 6-3, 6-2 victory in under just 2 hours. Now, while the win was further evidence of Djokovic's pedigree, questions though still remain over the 38-year-old's physical condition. Djokovic is playing his first tournament since losing in the Wimbledon semi-finals in July, having skipped the ATP Masters events in Toronto as well as Cincinnati. He looked fatigued though in his final, in his opening 2 matches in New York, while he also struggled with a lower back injury in his third round win over Britain's Cameron Norrie. Well, that is a wrap from the sports desk at this hour. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or give us a call. The newsroom line is +27 11714 4459. I'm back with more sports news in the next hour. For Channel Africa Sport, I am Musibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. Africa, meet Abedi.
Yeah, that's me.
Abedi is a music lover through and through.
I really love African music.
He's got a taste for all kinds of tunes and spends his days listening to Channel Africa. Guess what? He didn't know.
Okay.
Channel Africa wants to help Abedi and all music lovers everywhere to discover even more incredible music. That is why Channel Africa is calling on all African musicians to submit their music. Musicians, remember to give us all your relevant information. Make your submissions at music@channelafrica.co.za. Submissions are your chance to be heard on radio. But sadly, they do not guarantee that you will be playlisted. All submissions will be carefully reviewed to see if they meet our station's requirement. Channel Africa, the African Perspective. Business news on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
A very good afternoon with your business news. I am Chandruko Ligege. Mediclinic Southern Africa says its corporate social investment drive has helped to reap the desired outcomes. In its report, 2025 Corporate Social Investment Report outlines 7 years of pro bono surgeries, free patient transport and employee-led outreach. The group says the findings highlight the value of collaboration between the private and public sectors in making healthcare more accessible. Industry Affairs Executive at Mediclinic Southern Africa, Bob Govinda.
The 2025 CSI report shows that while much work and collaboration is still needed, we are certainly on the right track, but these challenges cannot be solved alone, hence the focus on partnerships.
South Africa's Finance Ministry and the Central Bank says in a joint statement that technical work on whether to change the country's inflation target was drawing to a close. The inflation target range is currently 3 to 6%, but Central Governor Lesitja Kganyago has long advocated for a lower band, arguing it would make Africa's most industrialized economy more competitive. The joint statement says the Minister of Finance and Governor will agree on any changes to the target band. The Southern African Rand was stable before the release of a Purchasing Managers Index survey for the local manufacturing sector and vehicle sales data. The Rand traded at 17.6350 against the dollar, a whisker away from Friday's close. July's PMI rose to 50.8 index points, returning to expansion territory for the first time since October 2024 as a result of improved business conditions in the sector for the first time in 9 months. In other news, Communications and Digital Technologies Minister in South Africa, Solly Malatsi, says the only way to ensure media sustainability in South Africa is for the government to partner with the private sector. Malatsi delivered a keynote address at the M20 Summit, which kicked off this morning in Melrose Arc, Johannesburg. The summit is a 2-day international conference which is running on the sidelines of the G20 program in South Africa. Malatsi says by working with the private sector, they can come up with solutions to keep private media companies financially stable.
So we must work together as governments and the private sector to support these sustainable models for independent media. This could include innovative funding mechanisms, fair competition policies, and ensuring that dominant tech platforms do not unfairly siphon away advertising revenues that journalism depends on.
Shanghai stocks flirted with fresh 10-year highs while Hong Kong shares climbed, supported by Alibaba after the e-commerce giant reported strong AI-driven growth fueling investor confidence in Chinese innovation. Sentiment on the mainland was also aided by regulators' pledge to consolidate the good trend of the stock market, which jumped 10% in August in its best month in almost a year. The Shanghai Composite Index closed 0.5% higher, while the blue chip CSI 300 index gained 0.6%. Let's now have a look at financial indicators at this hour. $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,000 naira 537. In Botswana, 13 pula 32. Kenya, the dollar is 128 shilling 495. Zambia, 23 kwacha 65. BRICS countries, $1 in Brazil is at 5 real 42. Russia, 79 rubles 97. India, 88 rupee 14. China, 7 yuan 12. South Africa, 17 rand 62 cents. $1 is 74 pence to the British pound and 85 to the euro. Looking at commodities, gold is at $3,347. Platinum at $389 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil at $67.77 a barrel. That is all for now. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or you can call us on +27 117144459. For Channel Africa Business, I am Chanduko Ligege.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective. The Upside. Your afternoons just got even better.
Bantu Biko Street by Simpiwe Dana. Ndi ready. Simpiwe, 20 years in song. So what emotions come up when you hear that, hey, you've been doing this for 20 years now?
It almost feels like no time has passed, eh? I just, I know obviously time has passed, but I don't feel it. Even about my age, I'm 45. I always get shocked when I think, oh my God, in 5 years' time, I'll be 50. Because for me as an artist, it's almost like when it comes to certain things, time stands still. And as a result, you find that a lot of artists are very childlike, which, helps them to always have a fresh approach to issues.
I tell you what, I'm feeling healed just by that.
We take no sides, none whatsoever. We are the Upside. Africa Update on Channel Africa.
Well, it's 12:44 Central African Time, and I'm Tracy Bumgard standing in for Lulu Gaboo. Zimbabwe's opposition leader, Job Sekala, delivered a defiant address at the launch of his autobiography, Footprints in the Chains, on Saturday in Johannesburg in South Africa, revealing that his home in Zimbabwe was bombed during Friday night while he was in South Africa. Sekala condemned the attack, calling it a victory for the enemies of civilization who meant to provoke him into abandoning his cause. He went on to denounce the Harare regime's reign of terror, from political persecution and economic discrimination to forced exile, and referenced fellow dissident, journalist Hopewell Chinono, who fled Zimbabwe to South Africa after being warned of a plot to kill him. Channel Africa's reporter Michael Mbewe has more.
Despite the intimidation and terror tactics aimed at silencing him, a fired-up Job Sekala used his book launch as a platform to underscore the resilience and resistance to his political aspirations. The event was not only marked by the shocking news of the bombing of his home, but also a rare moment of political unity, uniting opposition figures such as Mozambique's opposition leader Venancio Mondlane, South Africa's opposition MK Party member Advocate Dalimpofu, and Eswatini's opposition Pedumo Treasurer General Velaphi Mampa, who braced the occasion in solidarity. He confirmed that his house was attacked on Friday evening.
Today, when I woke up in the morning, I found hundreds and hundreds of missed calls and messages from my family and friends back home in Zimbabwe to advise me that last night terrorists went to my house and bombed it to destruction. My house was bombed last night. The agenda of the enemies of civilization was one. There was huge panic by the regime in Harare over our book launch here in South Africa. They thought that after bombing my house last night, I was going to get panicked and fly back home to go and attend to the family and children.
Sekala went on to say that Zimbabweans are not in South Africa at their own will.
They are not here on the basis of their own personal choice. They are running away from political persecution back home. They are running away from economic segregation and discrimination back home. They are running away from an evil regime that does not want any form of dissent. It takes a man of steel like us to still remain in a hot oven. Even brave people like Hopewell Chimono, who was only arrested 3 times with me. Once on the 31st July demonstration that we led at the anti-corruption demonstration. The other one where we were charged with a law that does not exist on publishing falsehoods. He had to run away to live in exile because he was tipped by the intelligence in Zimbabwe that they want your head now. This time they will not leave you alive. They are going to go away with your head in the ground. They had to run away to live here in South Africa. Not on the basis of want, but on the basis of a dictator that has terrorized his population and drive them out of the country.
Mozambican opposition leader Venancio Mondlane, who spoke virtually after being refused by the Mozambican government to travel to South Africa, said liberators have become oppressors. He alleged that twice he won elections but got cheated, including 2024 general elections, sparking deadly protests.
The people, our elder brothers, our fathers, that gave us the liberation, now they are becoming the new oppressors. And the situation is the same in Zimbabwe, Angola, but what I said that we need a new Ethiopia. And the last election, Mozambique, 2023, I won the election to be the mayor of the capital in Maputo. They rigged the votes, and we begin to march during 1 month and a half, march pacifically. 2 days, they shot people in 2023. 2024, I ran to the presidential election and I won again the election. They rigged the votes, and when the people protest, they assassinate in the official data say 400 people, but in the ground, they assassinate more than 2,000 people. And right now that I'm speaking, we have more than 5,000 people that are in prison until now.
Eswatini's opposition, Pedumo Party's Treasurer General Velapimamba, underscored his warning about monopolized power and the erosion of democratic sovereignty, an idea that mirrors the kind of authoritarian trends increasingly visible in Zimbabwe today. He said sovereignty should be in the hands of the people.
As the people of this continent, we need to ask very deep questions. Where must the power reside? The sovereignty of this continent, who owns it? And I've said to Comrade Job yesterday, and when we chat in our private discussions, Zimbabwe faces a very peculiar problem. A problem where I would actually say that ZANU-PF is the King Mswati of Zimbabwe. In Zimbabwe, comrades, you have people in the military, you have people who call themselves veterans, who when you listen to them, they have this very flawed way of thinking, this logic that because we fought, the country is ours. And therefore, because we fought, no one else in this country has a right to determine or to speak out about how Zimbabwe must be run. And that therefore they must give themselves chance after chance after chance to lead the country. The person who is unelected is the one who is given reverence. That is not what we are as Africans. We must take back, comrades, the right to sovereignty to where it belongs, and the right to sovereignty belongs to the people.
Michael Mbewe, Channel Africa News, Johannesburg.
Africa Update on Channel Africa.
Operation Watershed is calling for the inclusion of South Africans living abroad in the National Dialogue Steering Committee. The Civil Society Initiative for South Africans Abroad says over 1 million South Africans form the diaspora, yet remain unrecognized as a key sector. The National Dialogue, launched last month under the theme Uniting Voices, Shaping the Nation, includes 22 sectors set to nominate committee members. Operation Watershed has submitted a formal request to ensure the diaspora's voice is heard. To elaborate further on this initiative, we're joined by Hayley Richard, a South African based in London and founder of Operation Watershed. Good morning, Hayley. How are you?
Hi, I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. So what specific contributions does Operation Watershed believe the South African diaspora can bring to the national dialogue?
I think there's quite a few, and I think everybody abroad has their own area of interest or their own concerns about South Africa. A couple of key things for me, which is the main reasons why people leave the country and things that kind of prohibit people from considering returning, which is economic growth, education, and crime. And I think particularly around the economic growth, there's such a wealth of skills, resources, experience abroad. And, looking at importing and exporting is quite an important part for South African business. I'm part of the is a network of South Africans abroad doing business with each other, and just looking at in the last couple of months the collaboration, looking at businesses in South Africa who are impacted by the US trade tariffs, looking to seek alternative markets, and the support that other South Africans living abroad in other countries are able to offer them because they've gone through the process. Perhaps they run a business where they import South African goods. So I think in terms of helping the economy, helping keeping doors open for businesses, looking at investment opportunities could be really key through the networks. So, I think the number one issue we have in the country is jobs. If we have more employment, then people can live better lifestyles, people can, and hopefully that will help the crime go down. So there's quite a wide variety of things. I don't think there's any one specific area. For me, it's about trying to plug where people's energies are. We've got lawyers, IT specialists, people in the financial services, healthcare workers, nurses. There's such a variety of people living and working abroad. So, it's kind of plugging, if it's people in the healthcare sector, to be able to contribute, to be able to contribute towards driving improvements there. So, yeah, I think there's a million people is a lot of people with a wide variety of skill set that can support driving change in the country.
So the National Dialogue has already designated 22 sectors for representation. What challenges do you foresee in securing formal recognition for the diaspora as an additional sector? And have you already started addressing these obstacles?
Yeah, so understandably, from an organizational point of view, if there are 100 sectors that are identified to have, so each sector is meant to have 2 or 3 representatives per sector. Suddenly, if you have 100 sectors, suddenly that's 200-300 people to try and manage over a 9-month period. So I understand from the organizational perspective, trying to keep those sectors, keep that number down as much as possible. We are obviously pushing because we are there's a million of us. That's a lot of people. So trying to push to be recognized as an independent sector, which might not happen. If that doesn't happen, could we be allocated under one of those already identified sectors? I think the most important thing for us is just getting a foot in the door, having a seat at the table. If we can't have our own sector with 3 representatives, could we at least have just one representative to be able to participate? And I did have one of the people on the organising committee did reach out to me to say that they have acknowledged our application. So yeah, we're doing an online webinar or Zoom meeting on Wednesday, inviting South Africans abroad to come on board to learn a little bit more about the process, to nominate themselves or somebody else if they would like to, because we have until the extended Monday the 8th of September to submit those nominations for the steering committee. I'm still going to push ahead to try and be acknowledged as a separate sector. And if we get one person nominated, that's fantastic, and we can just work around it. So we could be relegated. They could turn around and say, we need to focus on people in the country, understandably. And I think if that does happen, those of us abroad still need to organize ourselves together. And, even if we run something independently or try and collaborate with people within those sectors to still make a contribution and make our voices heard.
So how do you intend to leverage your advocacy for diaspora inclusion to influence broader policy changes, such as improved consular services, voting rights for South Africans abroad, and even, you've highlighted in your recent engagements with the Department of Home Affairs?
Yeah, so there are things that directly impact the South Africans abroad, and then there are things that indirectly impact them. So a lot of my work and background has been in the Home Affairs space. I started the campaign for the loss of citizenship back in 2014, which led to the DA's court case, which 11 years later to change a couple of lines of legislation. And through all of that work, currently lobbying Home Affairs and VFS Global with regards to a variety of issues. People, access to consular services abroad has been an ongoing problem. Huge long delays. I'm chasing cases. One case that's 20 years long, others that are 7 years, 3 years, passport applications that are a year long. So trying to support South Africans abroad with lobbying and building relationships with the relevant departments to help with those issues. And then a lot of people abroad run businesses in South Africa, run charities in South Africa, send money home to support family members who maybe are struggling financially themselves. So, crossover in terms of supporting things that are impacting friends and family back home. In terms of the voting rights, so in previous elections, we all had one national ballot. In last year's election, there was the national ballot, which was for 200 seats in Parliament, and then the regional to national ballot, which was for the other 200 seats. Those of us abroad are not recognised as a constituency, i.e. a 10th province, so we did not get that second ballot. So it was unconstitutional because the value of our vote was halved. We only got to contribute towards 200 seats, and we also did not get to nominate or vote for an independent candidate because we are not recognised as a constituency and we didn't get that second ballot. So pushing for government to legally and officially recognise those of us abroad as a constituency will unlock the more constitutional voting rights and bring us more in line with that. We also need to lobby IEC because now this court case with the loss of citizenship has been ruled finally, and that next step is for people who've lost their citizenship to be reinstated. Because of that whole issue, the IEC requested that those voting abroad had to upload a copy of their ID and a valid passport. That can now fall away. We should be in line with those in South Africa where we only have to produce an ID. So lots of kind of like technical and procedural things that we can lobby for. Access to voting remains a massive problem. We have to physically vote at our foreign missions. 13 foreign missions have closed in recent years, and some are closed due to issues of conflict. So a lot of people denied their right due to access. So pushing for not just electronic voting, but internet-based voting would unlock the constitutional right for those abroad to be able to cast their vote.
I'm going to have to end it there. We've totally run out of time, but thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
That was Hayley Richard, a South African based in London and founder of Operation Watershed. And that is how we come to the end of today's edition of Africa Update. From myself, Tracy Bumgard, the team, technical producer Ntando Lutuli, and Ranil Wechaka. Thank you very much. Have a God-bless day.
SABC News. The African Perspective.